and welcome to my presentation. My name is Eva-Maria Gebhardt and I wish you a lot of fun listening. At the beginning I showed my photographic career so far. Based on that, I'm going to give this presentation. On the first point, however, I will not show any pictures. This is just a supplement to show that I started taking pictures in 2013 and self-portraits were my biggest passion at that time. In 2017 I opened my small business and focused on portraits. As described here, I also like stage portraits a lot, but these should remain a pure hobby. When shooting stage portraits, I was often behind and in front of the camera at the same time. I felt like Cindy Sherman. I put aside my own identity and slipped into a role. Even though I still like to do this, I realized that it is quite difficult to keep my own identity in my photographs. Maybe I don't have to do that with this kind of art. Sherman sees this abandonment of his own identity as a blessing. I feel it's more like an occasional outburst of reality. However, what has already become clear here is that identity is a strong and important issue for me. In the summer of 2019, I began my studies at the Maths Academy in Stuttgart. During this time, I developed my visual language and realized that in addition to portraits, I also love documentary photography. During my internship, I was given the task to photographing a small report on the topic of borders. I came into contact with the Finn swimmer Johanna Sikora and accompanied her during training and competition. Through this work I learned a lot, but I also noticed how difficult it is to make the right selection for a reportage and how many aspects you have to pay attention to when arranging the pictures. Over the years I have changed my visual language a lot. Here you can see my most recent images, which were all created during the time at the Maths Academy. The selection is unfortunately not yet as diverse as I would like to, but I'm working on it. I have found that I prefer working with given light to working with flash. I like to do portraits close to the window and create a lot of contrast. The color and light design is strongly reminiscent of Rembrandt's portraits. Also, in the future I would like to photograph my portraits with this visual language. Being close to people and not getting a post image is very difficult. I learned this through my internship in Berlin, but I'm still building the skills. In 2022, I completed my bachelor's degree and was preparing for my master's degree. I'm also working on numerous of freelance projects and works for my portfolio until now. My bachelor project, Gartengang, was about the world of techno, more preciously about the techno scene in the countryside. I portrayed the scene on the basis of my group of friends. I was inspired by Nan Golding's work, in which she basically photographed her closest environment. In the project, my own identity was also clearly reflected, even if I'm not to be seen on any of the pictures. My own self in representation by the people in the pictures. They are people like my best friend, whom I have known since the day I was born, or my boyfriend. Photographing as an insider in the subculture had its advantages and disadvantages. I had no problems getting into contact with the people because they were already my closest environment anyway. However, the line between free time and photographing for the project became blurred, and I sometimes had the feeling that I was only seeing my private life through the camera. I couldn't switch off and constantly had the feeling of missing something when I met my friends without my camera. I will be able to make the concrete comparison of photographing a subculture as an insider and outsider after I finish my master's degree. However, I think that both points of view have advantages and disadvantages, and in the end it is a matter of taste how you work. Ballet is a still ongoing project about ballet dancers. The basic themes are gender roles and identity. I originally photographed the two ballet dancers for an exhibition with the theme of men's worlds. I wanted to highlight men who are at home in stereotypically feminine world. However, the project feels like it's just beginning. I would like to accompany the dancers even more intensively and for longer. My second current project is also thematically about gender roles and identity. I accompany a wide variety of women in the exercise of their profession in the male-dominated craft. As I discovered while preparing for this presentation, identity is definitely one of the most fundamental themes along with gender and subculture. Therefore, I have dealt a bit more with the concept of identity at this point. In the Oxford Dictionary, identity is explained as genesis of a person or thing, complete conformity to who they are or what they are described as. People want to know who or what they are. We look for characteristics that make us unique and unmistakable. We form our own story about and thus form our identity. But this can also change in the course of our lives. Why I am so enthusiastic about these qualities that form a character and make the person unique, I don't know. Perhaps it is the constant question of one's own identity. Because who of us can so easily answer the question, who am I and what makes me who I am? Now we are arriving at the present time. In 2023, I started my master's studies and I also started to work on my research project, which will later become my final major project. For my master's degree, I want to engage with a world in which gender and identity also play a role, namely with the world of drag. For this, I want to accompany drag queens, kings and others from the south of Germany in a documentary way. I want to do this at their shows, backstage and in their private lives. The goal is to show that drag does not only take place in Hamburg or the Reeperbahn, but can also be found at the other end of Germany. It should bring the colorful world closer to those who have a few points of contact with it and offers the protagonists of drag another stage. In my previous project, I have learned how important it is to set clear goals beforehand and to be clear about what I want to achieve with my project. In my project Gartengang, the goal changed during the project itself, and this resulted in the photographs being very different in style. I learned from this and I want to do differently in my master project. As a contrast to the Gartengang project, I considered drag culture as an outsider in my master's project. I had hardly any contact with the scene in the past, except of a few shows I had seen in Hamburg. Now, it will be very important for me to build up trust with the protagonists as I plan to photograph them in their privacy. Thank you so much for listening and I hope you liked my presentation. Bye!